Jesperson, and I'm Director of Product Strategy at Dolby. I was part of a startup called Millicast that was acquired by Dolby about 1.5 years ago. And what we focused on is actually creating a new form of technology that can make streaming the fastest it can be, under half a second around the globe, all over the world. So that startup, Millicast, is now part of our real-time streaming platform. So what's really frustrating, I've been in live streaming for over 20 years, and the reality is with all this new technology that we have, live sports viewing experience has really not changed, not just in a decade, it really hasn't changed in almost 100 years. Linear TV is really the only way that we've been able to consume live sports content or live content, and despite the technology getting better and better, really we haven't found new ways to actually generate revenue and think about how we can create interactive experiences. So, what is the viewing experience of the future? How are we going to consume content? How are we going to interact with people around the world? And that's really the focus of what Dolby's doing. We're creating a platform that can create immersive, interactive, and social experiences with the way we consume live sports, live music, and other live events around the world. So starting with Immersive Fan Experiences, we started building this technology stack that allows us to create a multi-viewer natively in the browser. So instead of having all these different devices that are all using different streaming protocols and limiting the client-side devices we can consume content on, why don't we use this tech stack that's available to all devices? We use WebRTC within our platform and create these native experiences within the browser that gives the user the control of how they want to consume the content. Whether that's a multi-viewer experience that allows you to switch content. Think of a Formula One use case where you're in stadium and you want to switch between Lewis Hamilton or other drivers. So what's the next step of that? Well, we're creating the platform and the architecture on which other people can build apps. Building multi-viewer so we can control the angle that we want to watch, being able to pull in our friends, our family members, having a social application as well that can be pulled into this. And once again, making sure that we can reach people on whichever device they're on, whether it's an iPhone, an Android, a smart TV, or in the browser. And on top of this architecture, we've had customers start to build a huge range of applications, including in-stadium, in-venue, in-game, in-home, and really rethinking the way that we can consume content. Here we have an example of an AR application where we can look at a field and be able to pull in real-time data that can overlay and enhance our in-stadium experience. Similarly, on the right here, we have the ability to pull in, pretty much have a jumbotron in our hand. So if you have poor seats, you can actually pull in the live camera feed during halftime. You can hear the coaches talk. And similarly, also in the home. How can we do that in the home to be able to feel like you're part of that live experience? So to add to this, one of the partners that we've actually just started working with is a company called Play Anywhere. Play Anywhere is founded by some companies that actually came out of Warner Media or Time Warner. They've been in the live sports industry for decades, right? For a very long time. And Play Anywhere is really rethinking the way that data, interactivity, immersion can come together and rethink the way that the rights can be negotiated to create a much better application for users and create these new revenue sources. So here's an example. We can be on track and be able to pull up real-time data, and because of the speed at which our platform and our technology can actually deliver these streams, we can actually create real in-game betting that can really create a larger betting window for making real-time decisions. During a lap, is Max Verstappen gonna pass? Which will finish ahead? The industry has been a slave to a poorer streaming technology with Apple HLS that doesn't allow us to create these in-game bets. I'm not a bettor, I never have been, but if I was watching Messi take a penalty to win the World Cup last year, I bet you what, I probably would have put some money on him scoring that goal. And those odds just aren't created now with a lot of the legacy tech stack we have. So this is an example of the Play Anywhere app, and they've actually negotiated rights with La Liga to be able to create this real-time in-game statistics on which you can create not just betting, but gamification. You can create interactivity, enhanced social experiences that you can consume. And in order to do this, you need a real-time streaming platform that can support and make sure that everyone's getting the content, not 30 seconds behind where you're getting updates on Twitter before you are seeing it live in your OTT app. You want to be able to consume it as close to real time as possible. And the satellite and fiber industry and cable, we've only ever been able to beat 5 seconds, with sending something from a facility to a broadcast center, preparing it, encoding it, streaming it, With live streaming, it's been over 30 seconds, and I think you guys have all consumed this. We can now do this in under a second, end to end, not just to the actual data providers like Sportradar and StatsPerform, but you can also send this direct to consumer and be able to build a lot of these in-game betting and micro-betting opportunities inside the app experience. So this gives us this instant access to these micro-betting opportunities. And just like we showed the kind of in your hand experience with iPhone, you can do the same in a browser experience where you can actually see who's going to score the next goal. You don't necessarily need to create a betting product. You can still gamify your content if you're delivering to a country where there maybe is regulation around this or hasn't regulated yet. You can create still a lot of value to your content, including adding live e-commerce experience, contextual data for supplying, whatever you want to be, order food at home, in stadium, can we buy merchandise in stadium and then go pick it up on our way out or have it shipped to us? Because real-time data and real-time video can now be synced together, you can start to think that there's a lot more value you can create around the content. Here's another example with golf. You can be live on the golf or at home, and once again, be creating or following your favorite golfers, especially with Live Golf. Live Golf, obviously, it's amazing what has happened with Live Golf and the PGA, but they're creating new, more exciting forms, trying to get golf into the hands of a younger audience, right? Golf has always been something for our fathers and our grandfathers to play, but Live Golf is really trying to switch the model. And with the switching the model, there are revenue opportunities that can be maximized, right, with gamifying this content. And like I mentioned previously, it's not just betting. It could be e-commerce. It can be free-to-play games. Once again, creating the social side of this. And the amazing thing, too, is the interactive ads. How can we analyze this real-time data, this metadata, to create ads that are actually true to you? They're not selling you maybe a product that has nothing to do with your age bracket or your interests. We can use this real-time data to really drive the value of this amazing content. So that data-driven insight is extremely important in us trying to create this next revolution of how we consume live sports. And it really starts to make the leagues and the content owners think, well, who owns the screen experience? Traditionally, it's been broadcasters, right? Broadcasters have negotiated this, whether at the country level or at the regional level, to try to own this. But it's very clear with ESPN, what they're trying to do and go to direct-to-consumer, their partnership with Penn Gaming. There's a land rush that's happening in the entire gaming industry. A lot of that driven by the United States and their path to regulation, and in Canada as well. Here in Europe, we still had the issue of how does a telco or a broadcaster, how do they negotiate rights? And as this evolves, what you're seeing is the digital owners, companies like Amazon, companies like Facebook, companies like Apple, who are going straight to the content owners to buy the rights. Because with that, you get access to a global audience. You're not limited to just one national broadcaster. And I'm seeing this trend, having been in live sports and live streaming for over 20 years. There's a real issue with broadcasters. I think in the next 10 years, you're going to see consolidation, and a lot of broadcasters around the world are going to change their model, or they're going to partner with digital platforms. And it really puts the power, not in the hand of a broadcaster, in the hand of a league or a content owner or a team that now can go and realize the value for themselves. So this is a lot of how the existing rights have been, and there's been two kind of parallel paths. One is the broadcast rights, and one is the betting rights. Those are coming together, and they're being negotiated together as we do these direct-to-consumer products and apps. So our partnership, we're with Dolby. We provide, obviously, immersive video and audio experiences. Dolby's name is synonymous with that. But what we're also doing now is providing that real-time video layer that can work in parallel with the new form of negotiating these rights. So Play Anywhere is one of our partners that has provided this new clearinghouse for negotiating interactive rights that can be used in parallel with these real-time data and real-time video experiences. And what they're doing is they're going directly to the leagues and negotiating interactive rights, not just for live, but for VOD, for highlight, for clips, to create a network and a social experience that puts the content owner first. Not the broadcaster, not the telco, the content owner themselves. And they're creating this ecosystem of which we are a part, which allows them to create this middle layer in between leagues, right holders, distributors, gaming, e-commerce, and interactive fan engagement. In the United States, you have like Fanatics, right? That has an exclusive contact with the NFL. And they can work with that. They can plug in these data layers in between these different providers and create one unified experience inside of the way we consume content. So what does this lead to? Well, it leads to a lot of expanding market opportunities. Play Anywhere has signed a contract with La Liga here in Spain to negotiate their global interactive rights for the second division and for certain countries with the first division. What these content owners are finding is that interactive rights don't actually infringe on existing broadcast rights that are sold to telco operators or to broadcasters around the world. So you go to a content owner and you say, hey, by the way, I'm going to give you a few extra $1 million for your content, and you don't have to actually change any of your existing contracts. It's a no-brainer, right? For them, it's like, okay, we have a way to make more money at what we're doing by adding this interactivity into our application. Obviously here, you need something that can beat live linear. It can be live over the air or live satellite delivery. And with that, this is why it's so critical that we do things in real time. So by doing this, not only with La Liga, but with other content owners, they're trying to centralize and simplify this experience for the content owner, who really has never had to deal with a direct-to-consumer model. It's been the telcos or the broadcasters who have been trying to do this. And in fact, I think the telcos are probably the most well-positioned to do that, right? Whether it's Movistar here in Spain, or Orange in France, or Vodafone in Germany, they're the ones who own the network and the direct-to-consumer model. And I think you're going to start seeing a lot more partnerships in the interactive rights space between these telco operators and the content owners themselves. And obviously, we're here in Europe, and Europe has a very mature market as it relates to betting, but it's impossible to ignore the regulation that happened a couple of years ago with the US Supreme Court that has paved the way for all the states to actually start to pass regulation around online betting. And the sports betting opportunity is going to go from being a brick and mortar solution, really just in Nevada and New Jersey, and it's going to start becoming a reality there as well. And now when you watch the Super Bowl this year in February, you're seeing almost every ad is a betting ad, whether it's FanDuel or DraftKings or other providers, right, that are getting into the operator space. So that's a quick introduction as to, what is being built, what is being done. The interesting thing is with our kind of real-time streaming platform, we've seen a lot of other iGaming use cases become quite popular as everyone is always trying to rethink what is the next product in the iGaming space. So another company that we work with, this is no news to anyone, but it's live dealer games, because you can create the interactivity in between a user and the content itself. So we have a company called PlayOn that actually has our live dealer games. Here's one example, obviously, of blackjack. We provide the real-time video component here, and then there's obviously the data layer that they build in with different providers to gamify this, right? Whether it's OTT or whether it's in-app. The important thing to note here as well is that when you look at building a tech stack, you need to make sure a lot of times you have regulation as it relates, or not even regulation, but restriction as it relates to the app ecosystem, whether it's the iPhone in the Apple Store or whether it's the Android in the Google Store. And the amazing thing about the tech stack that we're offering, and many are offering, it allows you to build what's called a progressive web app, meaning you don't have to go to the store and be also at the mercy of having to pay them commissions on what you're making with your product. So progressive web apps allow you to use web native technology to not necessarily have to deliver inside of the Apple and Google stores, which I think is incredibly important for our industry. And the final example I have here is a company that has been using us pretty much since the beginning. It's a company called LiveSpins that is also trying to gamify these kind of applications. They have like socially fueled influencers, right, who are playing these games, and they're creating the hedge bets, the bet behind application here. I think I have a full screen here. So here you have a following, and what's really critical about this use case is the fact that Twitch, as an example, this was the 7th largest amount of content being streamed on Twitch. And in October last year, Amazon, who bought Twitch, decided we don't want this kind of content on our platform. Overnight, they went from making significant amount of money to having too much risk, right? And figuring out what are we going to do to create this product. So it's very important, once again, that people build their own streaming ecosystems and their app ecosystems that de-risk their investment in these products. So that's pretty much it. That's a really quick overview. I know I touched a little bit on some iGaming use cases, but most of the presentation, I think, is really focused on the opportunity in micro-betting and in-game sports betting, which is still very nascent. And I think the technology that we're developing is really going to help drive a lot of that opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ryan. That was absolutely amazing, and I really do think what you're doing is going to really advance the whole sports betting industry, where it's going to become something which is commonplace rather than being something which is on right now on the margins, where you have to go out and sort of go into your little website somewhere. The fact it's going to come into the space is going to be a very big game changer. Thank you so much. A big hand, please, for Ryan Jesperson from Dolby.